There we go. All right, guys. Well, welcome to Rampant Lion Reviews once again, and we have a new segment. So you might see I'm joined by my very good friend Peter from the Clueless Drinker.
Servus.
Yeah, my favourite sarcastic bastard in the world. We love him.
Likewise.
We love it. We love it. But yeah, guys, we have Peter and I had been talking about this for quite some time. Both of us have a big love of German beers, and we thought it would be nice to do some collaboration reviews together. So the idea that we have is that we have this new German sessions segment that we do, maybe sometimes on my channel, sometimes on Peter's channel. We'll swap it around and make playlists on each channel, I guess. And yeah, so we want to review at least one German beer together every month. But yeah, it should hopefully be good. So do you want to introduce the beer, Peter?
Yeah, so today we'll kick proceedings off with a classic in its style from a classic brewery, the Ayinger Celebrator Doppelbock. Now, this is clocking in at 6.7% ABV. Unfortunately, I seem to have misplaced my little goat that you usually get hanging onto the neck of the bottle. But this is a beer that I'm sure James will agree that I think we've had a few times up until now.
Yeah, definitely. I remember the very well. This is a good point to start off with. Do you remember the first time you tried this one?
The first time I tried this would probably have actually been while I was in Germany, and it was just because it showed up in a supermarket called Kaufland.
Oh, I remember Kaufland.
The thing about that place was it didn't really have much sort of like new. Well, I say new. There was a point towards, I'd say, the latter part of like 2016 where they started to put new sort of craft beers, but also this showed up as well as some of the heavy hitters. And I think that was actually the first time that I tried the Celebrator.
Yeah, I think for me, I remember buying my first Celebrator in, it was quite a well-known department store in Berlin, and I can't remember the name of it because I bought it along with a couple of other Ayinger beers, and that was when I was in Germany as well. So I bought my first one in Germany too. So that's quite interesting, that. Yeah.
But it is one of those beers that does tend to show up quite a lot here in the UK, I've found.
Yeah.
Pretty much most web shops, if they stock German beer, you'll be able to find a bottle of the Celebrator.
I think it's almost like a marker of a good beer shop has to have Celebrator, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's almost at that point. It's this one. I think it's quite interesting because, I mean, obviously you've got the Munich 6 and Ayinger. For those of you that don't know, Aying is a little bit to the southeast of Munich, maybe about 30-40 k's, something like that. And it's just a small town. It is actually just a small town, but you know, it's everyone kind of associates this brewery with Munich a bit, but it's actually from outside of the city. Yeah. So I'm trying to think. I mean, I remember you mentioned the little goat a minute ago. I think that brings us on to a kind of good little point. I mean, the thing with the goat was the bock style of beer originally is from Einbeck, which isn't actually Bavaria. I forget what state that is, but it's. Do you remember what state Einbeck is?
I can't remember. My German geography is not what it should be.
Yeah, because it's kind of east of, you know, like the sort of Ruhr cities like Dortmund and things. It's out to the east of there, and it's to the south of Hanover. And I think Hanover is Saxon, if I remember rightly, Saxony.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so. It could be Saxony that this is from, but the reason it became known as a Bock beer is because it was known as a Beck beer originally, but apparently there was a difference in the accent between the Einbeckers, I guess you would call them, and the Münchners. So the Münchners basically used to make fun of the Einbeckers, and the Munich people started calling this beer Bock. So that's how you got Bock, and then of course you've got other styles of Bock that have come from the original. So what I'm trying to think, what styles of Bock is it that we have, Peter?
So we've got obviously we've got the Doppelbock, which we're covering tonight. We've got the Bock beer. You get sort of variations of two different styles, sort of like Weizenbock. There's also because you do find a few seasonal variations on the Bock style, like the Maibock and things like that, and the Hellersbock, which is sort of plays into that Maibock. So yeah, it's quite an interesting sort of like theory when you think about it. All these different, it's a Bock beer, which is what I primarily would see as a little bit more of a maltier, sort of a breadier beer style. But then you've got all of these wonderful like Frühlingsbock, which I think essentially falls into the same category as the Maibock, which then again, without looking into it, like what would you consider a Maibock? It's a bock that's primarily produced to be released around May, and then you've got it's a wonderful thing to look into. Fundamentally, is German beer.
Yeah, because I mean, the other thing we should point out about the style, I guess, is that it is a lager beer. So it's, I mean, the definition of lager: cold temperature fermentation, bottom fermentation, like 10 to 12 degrees Celsius fermentation, I think. So yeah, these for being like a big beast of a malty beer, the Doppelbock is actually a lager.
Yeah.
And I often describe it as like basically a big Dunkel, essentially.
Yeah, definitely, and it sort of reminds me, although I'd say an English strong ale has characteristics of a Doppelbock more than a Doppelbock would have characteristics of an English strong ale, but I do see quite stark similarities between the two.
Because it's interesting that you mention that as well, and I'm sure we'll come to Dunkel at some point. I'm guessing one of the beers that we should review together would be the Augustiner Dunkel. We need to get one of those.
Yes.
We need to review that at some point together. But it was an interesting thing for me recently because one of the breweries here in Sweden, Nynäshamns Ångbryggeri, they released a mild, an English mild, and I had it, and I was like, geez, this is actually just like an ale version of a Dunkel. That was my thought of it. So yeah, I need to try and get some more English milds to look at, and some other things. But yeah, no, I mean, it's another thing we should look at is maybe a special of the Munich 6 Oktoberfest beers.
Definitely, that'll be good.
Yeah,
because I am partial to an Oktoberfest beer. There's something about when it's more on the sort of Märzen side of things. I think a well brewed Oktoberfest beer, it doesn't matter who's brewed it, because the Big Six, they've got this brewing tradition, and they just brew fantastic beer from batch to batch, year to year. You never really get a dip in quality, I've found.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things the Germans have mastered, really, you have to say, is that they always produce quality stuff, and they can do it, they can produce craft quality stuff on the big scale, which you have to really admire them for. It really is, top class. I don't know how much. That was one thing I wasn't able to find out, was how much the Ayinger brewery is producing. But yeah, I mean, these guys are a pretty high volume brewery in comparison to other ones. Yeah, no, I think that's cool. So, Peter, I'm not sure. Craig is complaining that he can't really see you very well.
I know. I thought the lighting would be a little bit better because it's got a little bit lighter outside, which I'm more than happy to move to a more well lit location. So, because I could see in my the actual clip, because it was quite dark. So I shall just very quickly.
What I was going to suggest then was I can go through my history notes while you reposition, if you like.
Sounds good to me, James.
All right, let's do that then.
Right back.
All right, cool. Right then, guys. Okay, so as we always do in my reviews, then we'll go through a little history of the brewery. So the full name of this brewery is Privatbrauerei Aying. So the Aying Brewery was founded back in 1876 by Johann Liebhardt, who took over his parents' estate that they had bought back in the year 1810. He was assisted by his wife Maria, and the pair had been inspired to open a brewery because of the economic boom in Germany that followed the victory over France in the Franco-Prussian War. If I remember rightly, that is like 1867, is it? It's in the very late 1860s, early 1870s. And this led to the unification of what we now call Germany. But they began constructing their brewery back in 1877, and they produced the first beer in February of 1878. And during this time, they could only brew beer between September and April in the winter. And this, was due to the temperatures mainly. But I think there were also laws that prohibited you from brewing during the summer. This is the reason why you have many breweries doing Kellers and things in Germany at this time. But the brewery continued to grow due to the development of the railways, telephones, and electricity that came at the beginning of the 20th century. And then Johann passed on the brewery to his eldest daughter's husband, August Zehentmeyer. So Johann died in 1910, and then August had to fight in the First World War. And during this period, the brewery was run completely by his wife and his 3 young daughters. But due to the rationing of malt, only about 15% of the brewery's capacity was used. When August returned home from the war, the brewery was in trouble due to the economic crisis that came in Germany. Of course, you had hyperinflation and political instability and all of this kind of things. But they also suffered from a fire, but they did manage to rebuild. And then in the late 1920s, they regained growth by bottling their beer, which started to reach Munich after the brewery had invested in some trucks to take it up to the city. But in 1936, the brewery passed on to the eldest daughter of August, which was Maria, and her husband, Franz Crescens Inselkammer. So the brewery production lowered during the Second World War. However, France managed to grow the brewery successfully in the post-war years. And then the brewery brought the Platzel Hotel in Munich in 1953. They invested heavily in the infrastructure of the brewery in the late 50s and 60s as well. And then in 1963, Maria and Franz passed on the brewery to their eldest son, Franz Jr., who had been trained in the business and also as a master brewer at Weinstefan, which is one of a number of famous brewing schools in Germany. You've got Weinstefan, Dohmans, and I think you've got VLB up in Berlin. Those ones are all really respected. But his brother Gustl ran the brewery tavern, while Peter ran the Platzel Hotel in Munich, and under their stewardship, the company continued to grow. They celebrated their 100th anniversary in 1978, and then they also helped establish a local history museum to celebrate that monument, that anniversary, I guess, as well. And it just makes me think they're not too far away from their 150th birthday, come to think of it. So just another 8 years, 2028. But since then, the brewery has completed drilling to get their own water source, and they also opened up a new brewery facility in 1999, which at the time was one of the most technologically advanced in Europe. And I think they are obviously, knowing German companies as I do, they probably will be investing in that and modernising it all the time. But they've got various different beers in their regular range. There's the Lager Hell, the Bayerische Pils, the Jahrhundert Pils, that's a very good one, the Altbayerische Dunkel, which I believe I've reviewed as well. This one, the Celebrator Doppelbock. This is a regular beer. There's the Keller beer, the Leiche Bräuweiss, Urweiss, and the Radler. And then the seasonals are the Winterbock, Kirtebier, Frühlingsbier, and the Weizenbock. So yeah, 4 seasonals, and I think that's about 7 or 8 different, maybe 8 or 9 different regular beers. So yes, that is your that one is your history section for Ayinger. There we go. Job done. And we've got Peter back as well. There we go.
Done, James.
Nice. Okay. Good. Yeah, can take a breath. So how many of the Ayinger beers have you had, Peter? Do you remember?
Definitely had the Keller beer, the Altbayerische Dunkel, Dunkel, not Dunkel. And I think that's really all I've ever been able to get hold of. Because even when I was living in Regensburg, you never really saw any of the Ayinger beers. It was just like every now and then you might have seen a seasonal, or one of the supermarkets might have a shipment of, especially the Hellers. But aside from that, it's strange how even in a regional sense, it was hard to get hold of their beers.
Yeah, no, that is it. That is the kind of frustrating thing in Germany. In a way, it's very good because if you move around different regions, you can find different stuff. But at the same time, it's if you want to get some of the famous things like this, you can't. I'm just checking on my channel as well. I've done 6 apparently. So the Winterbock was the first one back in 2015. Next year I did the Jahrhundert. That's a really good one. I do like the Jahrhundert.
I think about that once.
That's like a Helles, if I remember rightly. That's a nice kind of blonde beer, if I remember right. But then, then I did the Celebrator, the Dunkel, the Frühlingsbier, and then the Maibock is the most recent one in June 2019. So there we go. Yeah.
I think I have had the Frühlingsbier.
That one's wonky.
Because I think you could pick that up in booths over in England.
Okay. No, interesting. I mean, you can get this beer for me in Glasgow. You get this quite easily in the likes of Valhalla's Goat and things. I think I need to go and check some of the other shops in Glasgow. I always go to Valhalla's Goat, but yeah. No, it's always good. As I say, it's nice to have a Dunkel, Dunkels and Doppelbocks and stuff. I need to review more German beers on the channel. I think if you're not in Germany, it's hard to get a variety of different things. And I think that's
sort of get those like heavy hitters, because you always get the Schlenkerla stuff. But there's some really unsung, even bigger breweries in Germany that you just don't really seem to find. And if you do, it's just every now and then they just sort of trickle in to the UK.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing. For me, there was a really good brewery next to where I was in Heidelberg. That it was called Privatbrauerei Schmucker, if I remember rightly, and they had a good Doppelbock. They also had a Rosé Bock as well, which was really interesting. So yeah. No, it's, as you say, it's just very regional. And Germany is very regional. It's the same in Japan with the sakes and stuff like that. So, yeah, cool. Yeah. So, will we crack this one open and have a look at it? Yes, there we go. Okay. So yeah, there you go. There's a nice. You can see the goats enjoying the beer because that's what goats do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, let's have a. Oh yeah. Yeah. What I'm actually, this was the thing I wasn't sure about, is what glass would they actually serve? I was trying to remember what you would actually serve a Doppelbock in Germany. It's a kind of, is it like like a Pils glass, the sort of tall, thin one?
I'm not too sure. The glass I picked to do mine is the sort of a mini, because you get a lot of lagers in a bigger 500ml sort of glass like this. But I think a lot of places you'd either get them in the sort of clay steins or those sort of like big like handled ones at like a beer garden. So I think I'm not too sure, to be honest, James.
Yeah.
That's why I was hungry on Monday.
Yeah. No.
Because he had me 3.
We shouldn't do that because of worry.
There wasn't even end on.
Although last weekend I wasn't hungry at all.
My connection went a little wonky there. Can you hear me again, Peter?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Oh. You could go outside and have a whiskey with us on.
Can you hear me again, Peter?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I think. Is there some left?
Voices and stuff, I think.
Can you hear me?
There was a wee bit of background noise, voices or something, and it just went, I don't know. There we go.
Yeah.
But I think it was me that dropped.
Is it though?
It's probably my internet connection as well, to be honest. I know it seems like James's internet's just completely disconnected. And I can't actually see the comments, so I'm not sure what people are saying at the moment. But hopefully James will join us in a second. Sat out in the outdoor bar with the heaters on.
Kicked out of my own stream by the connection. Here we go.
There we are. James is back.
There we are. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, the other thing I've got, I don't know if you've got a little munchie paired with you, but I've got some Danish sausages.
Unfortunately, I don't have any Danish sausages with me. In fact, I don't have any food with me for this one.
Yeah.
A nice smoked sausage.
Well, I might open. Oh yeah, I mean, I'll open these up a bit later. What we might do after this, we can maybe like just cut this one and then start another stream or something, and then invite the other guys on. That might be quite fun.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So you're poured and ready to go. So
yeah, I'm ready, and the
ready and
lighting
willing.
doesn't really do it any justice. But from what I can see, it's got a ruby red hue to it with some nice brown tones. It just looks jet black on my camera, I think.
Yeah, I think on my camera it looks the same. But I mean, yeah, if you shine the light through this one, it's definitely, you know, a very dark sort of ruby, chestnutty, mahogany kind of thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, the head isn't showing up too much on this. I mean, this one, how much? We never mentioned how much alcohol this, because I think it varies a little bit. This one, 6.7 for me.
Yeah, 6.7 for me as well.
Yeah, because I remember this one being a bit higher than that. I remember it being about 7 or something the first time I tried it. Is it not?
I'm not too sure. It probably has fluctuated from batch to batch.
Yeah. But the head on this one is obviously faded away to be pretty much hee-haw. I've just got a little sort of fawn-coloured ring around the edge of the glass.
A lining of head on mine.
Yeah. No, it looks... I mean, this is what you'd expect from a Doppelbock, the two things that affect the colour of your beer. Type of malts you use in the first instance, then the length of your wort boil. I think the wort boil on a lager beer is rough, on a Doppelbock is maybe about 90 minutes, maybe about 2 hours actually, because it is, the sugars you get out of this are quite caramelized, and that's what it does, is it caramelizes the sugar more and more. So I think a Doppelbock undergoes a slightly longer boil than you know, a Helles or a Dunkel or whatever. So
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a beautiful colour to it. Just what you want from a Doppelbock.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, aroma. We take a look at that. Yeah. Oh,
sweet, steeped fruits, a little bit of chestnut coming through.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got that sticky maltiness to it. Sort of like those sort of like malt, not sodas, but I'd imagine countries like Germany, as well as Germany, obviously, would, because I always remember these like malty drinks that kids would drink.
Yeah, Malztrinken, yeah, I remember those, yeah. Because I mean, for me, I always find these Doppelbocks to be quite bready. I always find that you've got like a nice little bit of a, you know, it's not quite as grainy as rye bread would be, but it's got a similar kind of like sweetness to what you would get from a nice German rye bread. So for me, this one's quite bready and smooth underneath, but then you've got like a sort of treacly kind of thing on top of it. It's got like a really highly caramelized brown sugar. I don't find it toasted though. I think it's oily. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely more on the sweeter side, I would say.
Yeah.
But there's no harshness at all.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, for me, malty side of things, smooth, big, brown German rye bread, you know, it's a lot of treacly kind of things. I do get a wee bit of biscuit, but the biscuit's almost kind of overpowered a little bit by the treacle, if you like. So, yeah. And I mean, I think there's one or two little woody and nutty things in there as well, you know.
It's got that like sort of you get the sort of like aroma that it was conditioned on barrels, just like a sort of like a nondescript barrel character, because it's not overly woody, and it doesn't obviously have that barrel aged character because it's not barrel aged. But there's There's a slight barrel-like character to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, I think my malty side of things is very nice. Hoppy wise, I think it's it's typical of what you'd expect. There's a wee touch of earthiness. It's got there's a herbal component in there as well. But it leans, to me, the green component is quite well balanced between like a nice grassiness at the front of the nose and like an earthy herb. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it gets a little bit cakey as well, I think.
Yeah, sort of like a rum and raisin cake character.
That's a good one, yeah. Absolutely, yeah, kind of boozy, fruity cake sort of thing, yeah. So I think I've got a feeling the hops in this would be Northern Brewer, maybe.
Potentially, I'd say so. It'd be interesting to actually look at the recipe.
I don't think they have. I don't think they say what hops and stuff it is, but
I think they might hold the cards close to the chest on this one.
Yeah, that's quite a common thing that in Germany. They're no revealing their recipes. But fruity wise, I think, a little bit of blackcurrant, a little bit of fig, blackberries. I think that's what I'm getting fruity wise, yeah.
A little bit of a subtle prune character going through.
Those
like darker fruits of the forest sort of elements.
Yeah. No, I think we can agree. It's just that it's a beautiful aroma. This one, it's Doppelbocks are. They're
complex,
just very,
but not overly so.
Yeah, no, that's it. They're just, really, really, really nicely done, I have to say. Is it time to crack in?
I think it is.
Right, let's crack in. So, Peter, thank you for joining for the first episode of the German sessions. And I think this will be the first of many, I'm sure, when we can find beers that we can both get.
Definitely.
So, yeah, let's get stuck in, guys. Slàinte, skål, Prost.
Prost.
Here we go. Yeah.
So nice.
There's just something about these German beers when you've not had them for a long time. It's just like, man, I miss Germany.
Yeah, I drink stuff like this, and I just wish I was back in Regensburg, just sat there, anonymous, and just surrounded by these fantastic breweries.
That's it. This one, on first impression, though, it's interesting. I'm actually getting quite a bit more dryness off this in the middle of the palate than I remember. So yeah.
It looks like Coke. It's, considering its ABV, it's actually really quite drinkable, and even with those sort of like complex steeped fruit, very sticky sweet malt flavors, you just don't get the ABV at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is they're very kind of easy to drink. It just surprises me how toasty and dry it was. I don't remember it being like this, actually. I don't remember it being quite as dry.
Really getting any sort of dryness on mine. There may be a subtle dryness, but that sort of occurs a little bit, not straight away, but I don't know.
See, I'm getting quite a wee bit of dryness in the aftertaste, which is kind of interesting. But otherwise, it's quite a little bit darker than I remember it as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite a dark. It even it's going to sound like such a cop out flavor profile, but it tastes dark. Not necessarily roasted, but they sort of like dense, sort of like really bready, syrupy. It's got sort of like it's got a stickiness to it.
See, that's what I'm getting, is that the base layer for me, the base layer on the middle of the palate, is like a toasty, bread crusty sort of thing. Yes. Then on top of that, you get like a smoother, brown rye bready kind of thing. That's what I'm really getting out of this one. But it's just, as I say, it's the dryness of that. It's the dryness of the bread crust that I think that's getting me on this. I remember this one being a little bit more sort of oily and things than it is. I suppose oily is not the right thing. I remember it not having that little dry factor to it, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the more you the more I'm thinking about it, there is a little bit of dryness to it, but I don't think I'm picking it up as much because I'm just getting this sort of really dense sweetness, not sort of like a sugary, bright, vibrant sweetness, but sort of it's what I'd imagine a nice slice of freshly baked bread out of a German supermarket with some malt extract spread on top of it.
Oh yeah, that's a good descriptor actually. Yeah. I think it's. I mean, that's the thing is that I've always found, I don't know how much experience you have with the Czech beers. I don't think we've ever talked about that actually. But the thing I've always found the difference. Okay. I mean, the difference that I would notice with the Czech beers and the German ones are a bit almost cleaner and crisper, whereas the Czech ones are a bit more kind of yeasty almost.
Yeah, I tend to find a lot more of a grainier, biscuity, and not just biscuit as in digestive, but that sort of no cereal sort of character with the Czech stuff. It's not as refined or as precise as the sort of German counterparts, and it almost has more sort of a wholesome earthiness about it. If that makes sense.
It's a bit of a more raw, I think it's maybe a bit of more kind of raw beer, yeah. But yeah, I'm noticing with this one as well, in the middle of the palate, I think the brown sugars are a bit more toasty than the aroma the aroma would make you think. I think it's definitely got a nice toasty brown sugary note to it, but definitely it's a quite highly caramelized, treacly molasses sort of thing that sits on top of that.
Caramel comes straight to mind, sort of like a creme brulee, but obviously without the sweetness that you would get in a creme brulee. It's sort of like brown sugar that might have caught a little bit as you're caramelizing it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I get one or two. The thing I'm noticing is if you go to front corners of your palate, then kind of diagonally inward a little bit, I think you get a little woody undertone to this beer, and there's maybe even tiny little bits of nuttiness, but I find it more woody in its kind of subtlety, if you like. I get quite a little bit of woodiness out of this one for sure. But yeah.
It's sort of what I got from the nose. It's got a barrel-like character to it without it being aged in a barrel.
Oh yeah.
I mean, of course, in the lagering process, I suppose you could say, I'm not sure what the equipment's like at Ayinger. But then again, I don't know, would they sort of have this aged in the wooden casks at some point? Just sort of purpose-built casks where you're not really expecting for them to impart flavour or anything like that. But I don't know, there is a really pronounced woodiness to it.
Yeah, I mean, there is, if you think about, have you tried some of the Schwarzbräu stuff before? You know that brewery that does the big, massive Doppelbocks? Have you tried some of their ones?
Don't think I have. I think I've seen them a few times, but I've never pulled the trigger on them.
Yeah, because if you look at their stuff, everything's aged in barrels, basically. It stays in barrels for a hell of a long time. And I think that's how they get the alcohol. I think that's how they get the high alcohol out of them to a degree. But obviously some of them are ice box as well. So yeah, that's one we didn't mention earlier was the ice bock.
Yes, the ice bock.
Yeah, we forgot about the ice bock. Yeah. But yeah, I think hoppy wise with this beer, it's kind of, again, it's what you'd expect. A little bit earthy at the back. Then it gets a bit herbal, and then on the front of the palate, grassy and slightly floral. That's what I would say I'm getting.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it goes back to what we were saying before. It reminds me in some ways of a really traditional English strong ale. There's something, I don't know what it is, even though an ale is an ale and a lager is a lager, obviously. There are these subtle flavours that I get from both styles that sort of marry up quite well to each other. And I think the sort of hoppy character you get going off the Celebrator is really quite similar to something that I would get from an English strong ale, and I don't know if that's sacrilege or what, but I don't know. It always reminds me
Mhm.
of that for some reason, and I'm getting
Yes.
that a lot in this.
Yeah, I mean, see, I've always found the English hops for me have always been a little bit more earthy and herbal, whereas the German hops, the Hallertaus, the Tettnangers, and so on, tend to be a little bit brighter in their floral notes and a bit more sort of grassy, I think, as well. I do get a little bit of that out of it. So I think I can see what you mean, though. I can see this beer does have a bit more of a kind of herbally component to it compared to others
Yeah,
that I
it does.
remember, other German ones, definitely. And this is one of the interesting things that I think about revisiting beers like this is that you know, your palate changes over time, definitely. Because, like I say, I remember this one being a lot sweeter than it strikes me as being now, to be honest. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting how that side of things goes together. So, yeah, I think hoppy wise, it's got a nice little bit, but I think mine is pretty fresh by the looks of it because my one has a date of 12/21, so I'm guessing it's maybe been bottled in like. I don't know how long they would say this would last, maybe about a year or so, I would think,
so.
with German.
I've got 11/21 on my
Mm.
bottle.
Yeah, so I think probably they would put these for the year. So maybe this has been bottled in December and sent up here fairly recently. Yeah, how much did you pay for yours, incidentally?
Let me just have a quick look.
Mm.
Mine was £3.20.
Mm.
Which
Mine
isn't
was
too
20.
bad.
That's mine was 25 kronas, which is that's about €2.50. So I guess like £2.30,
Something
something
like that.
2.25.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know if it's a bit strange that it would call. I mean, I don't know if that's maybe just a Brexit thing, but I think that sounds about right from what you would pay in Valhalla's Goat or something. To be honest, I remember being surprised at how expensive how cheap this one was when you consider the alcohol of it. But then it's a lager beer. I think the tax on Sweden is maybe centered around the malt. But yeah, I don't know. I was just surprised that it was so cheap. Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of the more, especially in recent years, the more accessible and affordable of the Doppelbocks, because in the same order, I think I got the Maximator from Augustina, and that was like £5.30. Which, when you think about it, if you can find it in Germany, because it's still, from what I remember, really hard to find. Even I had a day out in Munich as it was sort of like in the season of it being released, could not find it anywhere. So I think, I don't know, it's a very strange thing. I think this has, for some reason, become a really quite accessible and affordable Doppelbock for people outside of Germany.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other ones that I found is really accessible is the Weltenberger Assambock.
Yeah, that's probably one of my. That's up there with one of my favourite Doppelbocks of all time.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's quite weird actually. You can get that in every Aeon supermarket in Japan. It's a really easy beer to get over there. So maybe when I go out to Japan next time, we can do one of these with the Assambock if you can get it.
Definitely. Any excuse to get the Assambock from Weltenberger. In fact, any beer from Weltenberger is just beautiful.
Well, I mean, see, that's one of the odd things for me is that for me, if I was to stay in Japan, then it would actually be easier to get different German beers to review with you. There's a lot than it is in Sweden. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, but yeah, it's quite funny, definitely. So look at the fruits. Look at the fruits.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's going down easy though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. For a 6.7%.
For those flavours and the 6.8% ABV, it's so drinkable because it is quite a rich tasting beer when you really break it down. Especially with those
Yeah.
sort of like syrupy, sweet characters.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think the more that we progress with this one, I feel that it gets a bit more kind of cakey as well. It definitely gets a little bit more of that kind of, and it's quite like a toasty, sponge cakey kind of thing you get out of this one, I would say.
Definitely. Those sort
Yeah.
of like those edges that have caught a little bit. Not enough to be bitter, but just enough to have this sort of like slight caramelization.
Yeah, definitely. But fruity wise, what do you get? What do you get on when you think of the actual fruits?
I get a lot of currants and dates and those sort of fruits. Fruits that have been like caramelized with a little bit of brown sugar on them. That's the sort of character I get with this. Dare I say it? It's almost got like a. It's almost venturing into that sort of like Christmas cake territory.
I can see where you're coming from with that.
It's
I mean,
those sort of like
for me at the
flavors.
I mean, for me at the beginning, it's got a little bit of a. It starts off with a wee like raisiny, blackberry-ish sharpness, but then I get all those currenty things that you're talking about. I think it's a little bit sharper in the beginning, but then it just smoothens out a little bit more. So for me, it's like at the back of that sort of front third of your tongue, it's a little bit. You get some of the kind of pruny, datey sort of things that you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more figgy beyond that, and then a little bit blackcurranty at the very front of the tongue. And on top of that, on the tip of the tongue, I think there's a wee bit of a sharper blackberry raisiny note out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I would get. Yeah. So I think we've covered the sort of flavor aspect of it quite well. I mean, what would you say? I'm trying to think of the other Doppelbocks, because each of the Munich 6 breweries have their own, and we mentioned the Assam Bock as well.
Yeah,
we remembered this. How many of those have you had? How many of the 6 have you had?
Let's see. I mean, Salvatore is pretty much the godfather of the Doppelbock, and that to me is quite a bit more of a. It's a high ABV beer compared to something like this. Those sort of like those alcoholic fumes come because I suppose people could have Salvatore and think it a very harsh beer. But I've had the Salvatore, the Maximator from Augustina, which I think is probably my favourite Doppelbock.
That's a good one, yeah.
There's the Hacker-Shaw Doppelbock.
The Animator, I think.
Animator, yeah. That's a good one. I mean, fundamentally, if you've got hold of a German Doppelbock, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I'm trying to remember if I've had the Spaten one, because Spaten has a Doppelbock as well.
I don't think I've had the Spaten.
The Spaten one, I've got that. It's called the Optimator.
I think I've seen it, but I've never picked it up. I've had I've had the Tuca Doppelbock.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, I was forgetting about Tuca. Yeah, the other one that came into my head a second ago. What was it? Corbinian, Weinstefaner Corbinian.
Yeah, Weinstefaner Corbinian. That's a good one.
I've had that on tap at the Weinstefaner Brewery. It's great.
I bet that was good. See, I'm not the biggest fan of wheat beer styles, because I think that would that be classed as a Weizenbock, or is that just a straight up Doppelbock? Oh no,
it's a straight Doppelbock. It's not a Weizenbock, because I think that there is another one that is a Weizenbock though.
Yeah, and I can't remember what the name is, and it's like staring me in the face.
Let's have a little look. I'll search because I think I've reviewed it.
I'm trying to think of a really other good Doppelbock that I've had. I've had quite a few, because the great thing about living in Bavaria is every now and then some of the neighbouring towns and cities, you'll get their beers trickling in. Just trying to think.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember, because what brewery we looked at the Hofbräu have a Doppelbock, did they not?
I think so. Yes.
I'm trying to.
I think.
I'm trying to remember
not
if I've
the
had it.
biggest fan of Hofbräu.
I do like the Helles though. I do like their Helles.
Helles. It's been a long time since I've had the Helles.
Yeah.
There's a Doppelbock that is. I can see it, but
Oh, did we? What happened there? Oh, Peter, we can't hear you. No, Peter, we can't hear you. Peter, no sound. No sound. What is going on? Peter, no sound. I don't hear you. Peter, no. What is going on with this, guys? What's going on here, guys? This is typical in the stream. This is weird. This is very strange. StreamYard is being odd. Okay, right. I don't know what happened there, guys. I was searching away for these different bock things.
there we go.
There we go.
Unplug the headphones and plug them back in.
Ah, okay. No, that was strange because it just went. I was searching for that beer and it was like, I was like, what the fuck is that? Yeah.
Connection issues. We all have.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wasn't sure exactly what was. I wasn't sure. I have no idea what you said a second ago, but yeah. But yeah, maybe we can round off with the mouthfeel. We should round off and chat about the mouthfeel of this beer a little bit, I think.
It's got, when you say syrupy mouthfeel, you think of these like high ABV lagers where they've actually used corn syrup in it. But this has got something else. You get that like sticky, syrupy feeling from those caramelized malts. Because you can imagine as they're brewing it, they're all like mushy, there's a sheen on them. So it's got quite a subtle velvetiness to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me it's got a big sort of slick, oily kind of vibe to it. Absolutely. In terms of hoppy bitterness as well, you know, I think it's a fairly standard. Most German beers sit around 20, 25 IBUs, something like this. So, no, I think it's kind of that typical sort of thing. For me, malty wise, it's quite. I find it really bready leaning, nice and woody.
Yeah, it's got sort of like a sweet bread, like you've spread some sort of sweet marmalade, but not necessarily like a really flavoursome marmalade. It's got that sort of like carrots to it, sort of like.
Oh yeah.
But because I'd imagine there's some sort of like malt extract you can have for like bread, sort of like a yeast extract, such as like Vegemite. So this spot me thing. I don't know. It's just it is like something slightly sweet spread on a really high quality, freshly baked loaf of German sort of like rye bread, like Roggenbrot or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's a nice wee grainy, bittery note to it as well, and then the fruits are nice and oily as well. Yeah, definitely.
It's a really rich and indulgent sort of beer, I'd say.
Absolutely. I think one thing's kind of clear though, when we do Helles and Dunkel and Helles and Dunkels and stuff later, I guess we probably need to have 2 bottles, I think, of the more drinkable beers when we do these in the future. I think we need to make a rule like that. But yeah, I think that kind of rounds off our tasting quite nicely, to be honest. Yeah, just a big oily, slick beer. But we got a lot of comments. We got quite a few comments. So let's just rattle through these, and then we can. So for those of you still watching, what we'll do is, at the end of this, I'll quickly set up another stream, and then I guess Peter and I will stay live after that, and then the other beer tubers might join in. So we'll have like a 5-minute pause or whatever, and then we'll get going again after this, because I think it's nice if these are separate episodes, I guess.
Yeah,
I think that's a nice.
We
I think
don't,
that's a nice.
devolve into the bike sniffing so quickly.
The seat sniffing and stuff like that, yeah. Okay, so is this the Scottish-Swedish beer drinker reviewing a German beer with an Englishman? Yes, it's very foreign.
It certainly is. Yeah.
It's very foreign.
Or as the Germans say, multiculti.
Multiculti. I like that. Germans are they're clever buggers, aren't they? The craft beer specialist. Evening, nice to have you along. Davor is saying good evening. Davor is one of the supporting legends of the beer scene, definitely the beer tubing scene. He is. Davor's a legend. Davor and I actually went to one of the Aying. Now that I think about it, Davor and I actually went along with my cousin that you met. This was on the same trip that I came to Regensburg to see you. We actually were in one of the Ayinger bars in Munich.
Oh, nice.
Now that I think, I forgot about that until I saw his comment. I was forgetting that. And Davor, this I remember this. If you ever meet Davor, he's got like, his knowledge is ridiculous. Like he sits on his phone and he goes through and he's like, oh, I remember this beer, and he gives you like a whole tasting note of it, and you're like, fucking hell, Davor, how can you remember exactly? He seems to remember exactly how this beer tastes. It's something else. So he's got his Instagram account there, and he'll flick through the beer and he remembers it. It's crazy. I can hardly see you, Peter. We fixed that.
Yeah. So heaters as
Jake,
well, because it's nice and warm.
Yeah. And Jake is saying that I hope you're taking notes. I think this was in the history section that these things appeared. So Brian was saying, well, lads, nice. Oh, yeah, Brian, if I remember rightly, Brian's Irish but lives in Scotland. Brian's commented on quite a few of the streams. We've got Valdo, history done and still viewers left. Yep. Vanessa joined in. Vanessa watches a lot as well, actually.
Vanessa.
Nice to have you, Vanessa. And Valdo's confirming he does like history. Oh, wait. Andre's comment. Andre is one of my Japanese classmates, actually, here in Sweden. From I do Japanese courses through Dalarna Högskola from distance.
Right.
So nice to have you along, Andre. This guy, he can chug it, like literally give him a beer, like a half-liter beer, and I swear to God, he can chug that in about 5 seconds.
Oh, bet he can't wait to meet Danny Kane.
Oh yeah, no,
the
like,
foil.
you know what I should do? I should give Andre some dragon soup.
Yes.
Give him some dragon soup. Yeah, because we were actually talking about, we wanted to do one of the in Japan, they've got the JPLT, and we were all talking about that we'd go, some of the guys very far up north, we were like, oh, we'll all go to Stockholm and we'll meet up and do the JPLT through the embassy. So I'll need to get some dragon soup to take to Andre and be like, right, Andre, this is a special for my YouTube channel, you chugging dragon soup. I'd love to do dragon soup reviews with Harry as well. I'd love to try that, just like split a can each and have a few different flavors.
Oh, yeah.
But that would be a shit show.
All you need.
Yeah, I think that would be a thing, is we'd have to get you down for that as well. That would be fun.
Yeah,
Me, you, Harry and I, and if we can get Adam to join in, that would be fun. Yeah. So Brian said it's usually easy enough to get a good range of their stuff in Edinburgh. There's a bar in Leith Walk called the Beer House. Oh, I'll need to go and check that out then. That had their Hellas as a permanent line. Yeah. We'll need to, that's one of the things, because when you come up to visit Scotland eventually, Peter, I want to take you to West, and then there's a few bars in Edinburgh that it would be cool to do out and about videos with you, with Brauhaus, and then this place. Sounds pretty good as well.
Sounds good. We're on the roadmap to freedom, so.
Oh, yeah. Not in the Sweden's been free anyway, but our vaccine program here is just messed up. Yeah. It's like Drunken Yoda Hoon. I'm doing good. Nice to have you, Drunken Yoda.
Good evening.
Good evening. We've got Sean. I've not seen Sean for a wee bit, actually. I've not seen Sean for a little while. I always enjoy Sean's comments. Yeah. Sean, actually, while it's in my head, I was waiting for you to comment on one of my videos. But Sean, can you drop me a PM through Instagram? I actually wanted to show you something, and not my sausage, not my foreign sausage, but
Not
something.
sausage, not a
No,
chicken.
it's not my Nuremberger.
It's not
But I
my
want.
fucking Nuremberg, it's
It's
crap.
not, it's not my Nuremberger, but yeah, Sean, can you drop me it? Because I saw that you followed me, but I can't. I was struggling to find you. So I wanted to give you a link. So can you drop me a line through Instagram? That would be cool. I've got Win Thomas. I need to watch some of Thomas's reviews. I've not
Even
watched
Thomas.
much Thomas's things, but yeah, Thomas, nice to have you along. Chadio, I love this beer. Yeah, I can
It is a lovely
understand.
beer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would have necked this by now. I think, yeah, I think we
Yeah,
probably should have,
probably.
to be fair. But
Yeah.
I think we will when it. Yeah, I think when it comes to it, we'll probably, when we're doing Hellas and things like this later, we probably will. Yeah, absolutely. We need to organise a wee trip to Bamberg and stuff and do some filming like that. That would be good.
That would be really good.
Yeah, we need to keep each other posted on that, because I can fly down to Germany quite easily. Absolutely.
Yeah, Germany's an easy place to get to. It's quite cost effective as well.
Yeah, yeah. Because you've never done Bamberg, had
No, I've I always intended to have just a day trip in Bamberg when I was in Regensburg, but it just never materialised.
Oh man, you can't do a day. Trust me on that. You need like maybe.
need to spend more, like a weekend.
You need like
Weekend
you
in
need like
Bamberg.
you need like 3 or 4 there. And the other thing that's cool about Bamberg is my friend Daniel, who was the one who got me into beer in the first place, he still lives there. So I would love to do some out and about videos with him and with you there as well. That would be spot on.
Sounds
Because I think when I went there last time, I wasn't really doing out and about. So that needs to be fixed, definitely. That needs to be fixed. Yeah. But Davor is saying he gets a bit of forest honey, acacia, and chestnut with soft medicinal touch, roundy with bitter bread and herbs. Right, Davor, I'm going to chew you here because you constantly tell us. You constantly tell us, oh, I don't know if my English is good enough for doing beer reviews. What the fuck is this? Like Davor, you're saying that.
Now
Yeah.
he's mentioned medicinal. It sort of reminds me of was it called kraut liqueur? Like that's the wonderful thing about a lot of the German spirits, is very regional. Doesn't have to be the usual stuff you'd put into spirits. But I remember, especially in those sort of like brown ceramic, slim bottles. But yeah, I definitely see that medicinal side of things in this.
You know what would be brilliant as well, just come to think of it? I would love to go with, absinthe with raggi.
Yes.
Absinthe with raggi would be brilliant.
A raggi absinthe session.
Raggi, yeah, that would be brilliant with raggi to do absinthe, because raggi's brilliant when he's sober, but imagine if you gave him some absinthe. Oh man, that would be something else. Some German absinthe. But yeah, Davor, I'm just going to chew you here. When you can write shit like this about beer, you need to start your own channel. We keep telling you this and you don't listen to us.
You can't just get away with coming out with stuff like that.
Yeah, nah. These comments are unacceptable. If you just said honey, then maybe you could get away with it. But then you've given like acacia and chestnut and medicinal touches. You need to start your own channel. You've dug your own, Davor. You have dug your own hole here. You need to sort that.
Start a channel or write a book.
Yeah,
Make
exactly.
A choice.
Make a choice. Yeah, but you're not allowed to just like watch our streams anymore. You have to do your own thing as well.
No.
Definitely. But he's saying he paid €2.30 in Slovenia. That's how much is it in Germany? Is it like €1.50?
Something like that, between €1.50 and €1.90, if I remember correctly.
Because Germany's a bit ridiculous at that. Like the Maximator, I remember you can buy Maximator a half litre for like €1.20 or something.
Yeah. Stupid prices. Schlenkerla Rampe Mertzen used to cost me 90 cents a bottle and you're paying like £3 to £4 here in the UK for that.
I mean, actually, that's a good point. You mentioned Schlenkerla, because I've got my 2 Schlenkerlas waiting at home, but that's another Doppelbock we didn't mention was Eiche.
Yeah, the Eiche.
And is Urbach a single or a Doppelbock?
I think Urbach is a Doppelbock. I think something like, if I remember off the top of my head, which is probably completely wrong, it's sort of like a 7.2 or 7.8. Or am I thinking of Paulaner's? I don't know. It's a little bit higher in the ABV scale compared to some Doppelbocks.
Yeah, because Eiche, I know that Eiche is about 8. I've got a feeling that Eiche is like a straight up 8. Rauchbock. I've got an Estonian Rauchbock in the fridge through there that I'm really looking forward to cracking. That's going to be very nice. Yeah. It's one of these things, obviously, I research the breweries a lot and trying to get a hold of information from some of the Estonian stuff. Their language it's just crazy. It's just, I think Finnish and Estonian, I think when they were making the language, they just had a competition to see how many vowels they could get in a word. I think that's what they were doing there. I think, honestly, that was it. But yeah, €2.30 is not bad. We've got Leonard saying hello. Nice to have you along, Leonard. We need to, Leonard is in Belgium. So yeah, it'd be cool to have Leonard on actually and do a joint Belgian thing with him at some stage. Yeah. Leonard, yeah, that's another beer tubers thing we need to do is go to Belgium and visit some of the Trappist breweries and stuff. Definitely. That would be good fun.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good for my beer education because, as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Belgian beers. But that to me would be such a good experience, not only visiting the city and being with people who are like, but it's just that idea of actually fully immersing yourself in these brewing traditions. Sounds really quite exciting to me, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something we can sort out, but we've been talking about Bamberg and stuff for too long. That has to happen first.
Yeah,
definitely.
That definitely has to happen.
Yeah. This has put me in the mood for the Corbinian in my fridge later. Go and crack it. That's one that we need to look at as well, Peter. And
yes.
I can get the regular Hefeweizen from Wein Stefan.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to do the regular Hefeweizen from them.
Yeah, we need to. That's one of the things. I'll try and make a list of the German stuff that I can get, and then we can see what you get. Because I think I'm probably a bit more limited than you are.
I think so. I think it's easy for me to get hold of some of these beers, even in some of the supermarkets now. Yeah, which is crazy to think.
Because what I'll try and do is, I mean, I can go over to Copenhagen and try and get a few. I'll see what I can get. If I see some stuff that I know is not like bigger breweries and stuff, I'll just buy it up and maybe have do one for a solo review and get one for a joint review as well, actually. But yeah, we've got Davor the beer savant. Yep, absolutely. He's not allowed to to do it without starting his own channel, and he's just not allowed. Enjoying a Pojala Neukölln. I've seen that. I heard about that one. Pojala are ridiculous though. You should see. I don't know if you. Did you have a little look at my interview video that I did with Meet the Brewery thing?
Not watched that yet. It's on one of the many hundreds of videos that have found their way on my watch later playlist.
Their facility is ridiculous. It's an old submarine. It's a Noblesner. They're called the Noblesner shipyard, and it's like this old submarine naval type thing. And it's just like it's just craziness. It is actually just craziness. They've got a big Rolex German brew kit, I remember, and their facility is really impressive. It's very, very good. So we say next time Hellish Lagerbach, the one I actually, if I can still get one, that might be a good shout actually, Peter, because I can probably still get one of those in Malmö before it disappears. Are you able to get one?
I'll certainly try my best to get one of those, actually.
Yeah, because I'm due to go down to Malmö, and I think the Hansa Systembolaget might have it, so maybe I can still get one of those. That could be a shout, as
That could be a good one.
because I've still got the Märzen and the regular lager that my sister's friend gave me that we can use for
Okay.
a Schlenkerla thing. But that's a
Yeah.
good shout, Valdo. Actually, that is a good idea. I'd never thought of that.
If you could just bear with me 1 second, I'm just going for a quick
Mhm.
toilet break.
Yeah,
I
cool.
shall
I'll
be
just
right
read the
back.
comments. Yeah, I'll just rattle through the comments then. 4-day German trip sounds superb, then 7-day rehab visit. Well, Danny, you would be quite welcome to join us if you wanted to. That would be good. So we have Roman.
Second that.
Yeah, we've got you, Roman Shurakovsky. Okay. So, yes, I can read Cyrillic. I love Cyrillic. It's awesome. But yeah, what can you say about Ukrainian beer? You know a lot about it. I'm surprised as a Ukrainian. I've only really had Obolon from Ukraine so far, but I know there's a few really well respected Ukrainian craft breweries. Actually, I need to look at those and do that. I was actually meant to go to Ukraine a couple of years ago, but then my girlfriend got pregnant and couldn't fly, so I wasn't able to go to Lviv and Kiev as we'd planned. But I'd love to go to Ukraine and have a look at that. I know that there's some really good stuff coming out of there, but I'm just not able to get a hold of it without going to Ukraine. So yeah, I don't know too much, but I know there are craft breweries opening up, and Obolon, of course, is probably the best one. Yeah, James, you speak good English for a Scotsman. My English is getting messed up these days because I'm trying to learn Swedish at the same time. So yeah, Jim is great at English. Good to see you both. Nice to have you along. Nice to have you along. Oh, I'll need to show Peter this comment as well. Absinthe. There's some strong shit. Yeah, Raggy. I don't know what it is. I would love to see you on some absinthe. That would be great. But quality find for tonight. SKJ, James, and Peter. Hope you guys well. You know, we're both doing very, very well, Danny. It's nice to see you back and around. I've not seen your videos for quite a while, but you and I need to definitely get something done. I remember trying to add you as a friend on Facebook a wee while back, and I think you didn't really know who I was. So yeah, we need to do that. But yes, some collaborations together with Danny would be great. Absolutely. Paulaner Salvatore is 7.9. Had it the other night. That is a big Doppelbock. Definitely. I need to go. That could be a potential review to do later. Good evening, guys. How are the beers? It was very nice, Steve. It was very nice. So yeah, Eric is saying I can help you with the Estonian. That might be handy actually. That might be handy. Yeah, yeah. That's Pujala's very first beer that they did, the Big Baltic Porter. I reviewed that quite recently. I did review that quite recently. Yeah, I can help with Nottingham. Well, Raggy, I actually want to get across to Nottingham for what do you call it? I want to get across to Nottingham for this beer festival that we were talking about. And yeah, that's all the Tervisex I speak. The other funny thing with Estonia, I think it's 13 months or 20 months. To say like it's either 13 months or 20 months in Estonian, you say tasty cocks. Which for Peter and I in this in this situation is great. And then our last comment, our last comment is that Davor was working for almost a year in Germany about 20 years ago. Oh, nice. Well, but before we sign off, Peter, which we'll do in a second, I think you'll like Raggy's comment. Absinthe.
F.
That's some strong shit. So Raggy, I don't know why I find it really strange to call him Billy. I know his name's Billy, but it's just to me he's Raggy. Yeah, it's so strange to call him by his first name. To me, he's Raggy. I would love Raggy. When Peter and I meet you, we need to do an absinthe review. I think we need to do that. We need to do that.
But for better or for worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're just about to sign off, but we've got a couple of things in there that have just. Oh wait, no. I missed Danny's comment. So yeah, we'll get something sorted out when I get back on the hops. Danny, message me through Instagram, or I think you follow me on Instagram, or I follow you. Find me on Instagram, and we'll connect that way, and then we'll go through Facebook, because that would be good. Thanks for following my channel. I won't be being horrible, as I've just had issues off YouTube. All right, oh, that's good. I think Harry's in contact with Danny, but we're going to start a stream. Danny, if you want to even join, you don't have to drink or whatever. You can join in a second. Ricard. Yeah, so Ricard, we're about to go and do a separate live stream. I'll drop you the link if you want to join us after this. So stay tuned. We'll get you on, Ricard. I'm getting loads of comments in. We're going, yeah, definitely. This is always what happens. Don't worry about it, Raggy. You're a legend. Raggy is a legend. 3-way absinthe review. That would be fun. An absinthe in Raggy's shed. That would be great fun.
Oh, yeah.
I really want to film. One thing I want to do more of is my Meet the Blogger thing. So I want to do one with you, Peter, and then I want to do one with Raggy and with Danny as well. That would be awesome.
Summer months.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We'll get that done. We will get that done. I need to get this England tour done at some stage as well. And we've got Steve saying, good evening, guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Yeah, and I think that's a nice way to sort of sign it off. So I tell you what, I will set up another stream, and then I'll put the link in the Facebook chat. I'll send it to Ricard as well. And we'll see you guys. We'll maybe start it at past. We'll start at past on the next one. We'll take a couple of minutes break and we'll end it there. But guys, thank you for supporting us on this little venture that we're doing. Maybe we'll decide whether the next episode is with me or with Peter, or what exactly we're going to do. We'll need to decide on the beer that we do.
Definitely.
But yeah, Peter and I want to try and do this minimum once a month, and if we get something else and we get a couple of beers that we can do maybe once a fortnight or something,
sounds good to me.
We'll figure it out. But guys, those of you who are watching who are not subscribed to Peter, make sure you go and subscribe to him. Show Peter, my lover, a little bit of love, because
James.
Yes, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes, James.
Yeah. Yeah. But pardon me. Thank you all for your support. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's nice to just sit and chat away about German beers a little bit and kind of chill one-on-one. So yeah, it's been too long since you've been on my channel, Peter. Actually, I can't remember
it's
before
been
this.
a hell of a long time. I can't even remember the last time.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. So we need to do that. Good chat, lads, and then foreign stuff. So yeah, on that foreign note, we'll sign off from our review of a foreign beer from a foreign brewery.
Beer from a foreign
beer from a foreign brewery. So it shouldn't be as funny as it is that. But guys, thank you for watching. We'll catch you. We'll catch you in about 10 minutes. We'll take a break and we'll start another live stream. Cheers, guys. Thank you for your support on the first German session. Prost.
Thank you. Prost. Auf Wiedersehen.